go to the top of the ninth. Perry heading out to the mound for the ninth inning, and the Griffins lead 5-1. 2-2 pitch to Kane. Strike three call! Jimmy Kane makes the long walk. One down here in the ninth. One strike pitch on the way. Slider hit up in the air towards center field. Running in is Colton Carney. He has it for out number 2. 2 outs, nobody on in the ninth inning, and Luke Trainer will be the batter. He is 0 for 3. Delavella bouncing, picks up the sign. Now the 1-2 pitch. Strike three call! They've done it again! The Griffins are back-to-back PSAC champions! And another dog pile here at Point Stadium. Perry Delavella with 3 strikeouts. The last 4 batters that he faced. The Griffins go back-to-back and are bringing more hardware back to Greensburg.
From Seton Hill University, this is the 2019 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Here's Dan Flickinger and the coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Mark Marizaldi.
Griffins baseball season is upon us. The only event that is slightly more important on the calendar than Griffmas, even though I'm sure the alumni would vehemently disagree. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 2019 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show. I'm Dan Flickinger with the Westmoreland Sports Network, and getting ready to enter his 16th season, rocking a very impressive beard today. He won his 500th game last year. He is Seton Hill University baseball coach Mark Marizaldi, and Maz, we talk about this before every show when you're rocking the beard, that we should have a beard cutting ceremony at the end, but unfortunately we forgot the clippers.
Yeah, it's kind of like my preseason ritual. It's become growing the preseason beard, and usually once we go to Florida I got to chop it all off, but one of these days we got to have a beard shaving on this show.
We can bring Brett Kiesel in as well.
Yeah.
I mean, he's around doing charity events all over the place.
Yeah, we shaved our heads last spring
right.
for Versus Cancer, so we might as well do the beard shaving now, I guess, right?
Well, Maz, let's talk about, well, first of all, we're going to talk about certainly last season first, and then get into the 2019 Seton Hill University baseball team and the schedule, the season, and all sorts of things here on the season preview show. And, of course, you can watch and listen to most of the Seton Hill baseball games here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. We'll be going south to Florida with the team. We'll also have 8 home doubleheaders. Some games will be on video, and all playoff games you can watch and listen to as well. Back-to-back PSAC championships. Last year you guys battled adversity again, and it seems like a story always goes along with the championship season or a regional championship season. You know, when you got to Cary back in 2014, there was a story that went along with that. It seems like every time you guys win a championship, you always battle through adversity. You had injuries, you had inconsistency during the regular season as well, Maz. And there you were playing for a regional championship and also winning a PSAC title. Just another great story in the brief 16-year but incredibly successful history of the program.
Well, I think when you look back at last year, you have to look at that group of 14 seniors we had. Those guys had a lot of postseason pedigree. They had been through the adversity of the year before and won a championship, and you have to lean on that type of experience. Those guys, you know, we got off to a pretty rough start at the beginning of the season, but we had the right people to lead us. Not to take away from the success of our underclassmen last year, but that group of seniors that graduated was really special. They were very dynamic as far as bringing different personalities and different backgrounds, different qualities. But I think they had a lot to do with us getting that championship last year and really almost getting back to the World Series. To look at where we finished compared to where we started, we came a long way last year, and we grew up a lot as a team, and we were able to kind of hang together when the seas were a little bit rough at the beginning of the year. And I think a lot of that had to do with our senior leadership and just the experience that we had built up as a postseason team the years prior.
Yeah, you guys definitely came together. The leadership came out. The character came out when the money was on the table. I just think back to that senior class and even the last 2 years, really, the accomplishments that they had in the playoffs. I mean, even individually looking at, I mean, I know Tom McCarthy was one of your top hitters all year. Garrett Verbanek comes back last year after injury. Ty Sullivan wins the MVP last year, the PSAC tournament MVP, with 2 huge hits against Millersville. Perry Delavella has an up-and-down junior year. And then the senior regular season wasn't anything great, but in the playoffs he was dynamite, absolutely shut down. And we'll talk about Perry a little bit later on. But, I mean, I could continue to go through these guys. Don McReath was very dependable for you out of the bullpen and as a starter. MP Buckley, particularly his junior season when you guys won the PSAC tournament, he had some big hits in the tournament. Mark Colella was one of the best power hitters in the PSAC. Jarrett Peters even came through his junior year 2 years ago in the PSAC. I think it was the semifinals with a huge hit to tie the game. Sam Vilk had a huge home run against Westchester. I mean, again, I could continue to go on, but that senior class, you know, even though that, again, they were a little inconsistent during the regular season, when the playoffs came around, I mean, they just upped their game, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, you look back at last year, we had 1 second-team all-conference player.
Wow.
And for a championship team, that's just, it's unheard of.
Right.
We did finish in 4th place in the regular season. You know, we lost some games we should have won, but it was not a team of superstars. It was a team of guys stepping up at certain times, guys filling small roles, guys filling big roles, like a lot of the names you mentioned. And I think that's what's pretty special. We may not have been the best team, but we played the best when we needed to. And I think that came down to just our guys really wanting it and believing and just having pretty strong character.
Maz, any memorable moments or special stories you care to share from last year that are airable, of course?
Well, the most memorable moment was probably happened in Johnstown, you know, with that late night dog pile. But there was some heart-to-heart talks, I think, that happened along the way that at the time may have been very difficult. But looking back, I think they shaped our team and shaped some of the individual players into what we were at the end of the year. We had a rough trip in Florida. Yeah. I mean, you were there last year and, you know, got off to a great start. I think we started the season 4-0 and then just absolutely tanked. And you could see a lot of self-doubt and disappointment, frustration, a lot of negativity around our team. And, you know, we spent a nice evening on the tennis courts of our hotel having a discussion. And the following weekend we went to Millersville and we were pretty bad there too and got swept. And we had a big powwow in a hotel room and kind of hashed some things out. And, had a very heart-to-heart discussion in the locker room at Point Stadium after a loss to Pitt Johnstown. And, you know, sometimes you got to let those things out and kind of just wake guys up. And I think you got to kind of take the good and the bad both together. And our guys did that last year. But there was some hard times along the way. But I think our guys responded really well and took their failures as motivation. And that's why they finished the season the way they did.
Speaking of the senior class, this is going to be our first roster at Seton Hill University for the baseball team without a McCarthy since 2005, which is unbelievable. Mike, Dave, Pat, Tom, and of course we've got to give a shout out to Angie because we never talk about her. She was a track and fieldster here at Seton Hill, but wow, that's incredible. You look at the roster, where's the McCarthys at?
13 straight seasons with a McCarthy, and I mean, in most of those games over 13 years, a McCarthy name was on the lineup card.
Right, not only on the roster, but on the lineup card.
That's a lot of sandwiches from the family over the 13 years, a lot of meals cooked by the family. And but I'm sure they'll stay connected not only to the program, but also to the university. I think Kevin has plans to be in Florida this year, so it's kind of in their blood, and it'll be different not having one of the McCarthys on the roster.
Until Mike's son.
Yeah, he's already committed.
He committed, I guess last year, 2 years ago, whatever it was. Yeah. He signed his NLI as well. I don't know how he did that. He's so young, but he's pretty advanced for a McCarthy.
Yeah, we got to jump on him. And David is having another child, so
yeah, okay.
Already has a baby girl, and we're hoping for a baby boy and keep building a roster. So.
Well, of course, she'll play softball, and then we'll see what happens with the boy.
Yeah,
or if it is going to be a boy, I should say. Perry Delavella became the third player in Seton Hill history to be drafted last June. He was drafted by the Cardinals in the 27th round, fourth to play for a Major League Baseball organization if you throw in Nick Sell, who was signed a couple of years ago. Really good start to his career, too, Maz. Pitching for the Durham Bulls last summer, 1.97 ERA, 67 strikeouts in 45 2/3 innings. And when Perry's going well, there's no sense even talking about the walks because there's barely any. Not a bad start to his professional career, huh?
Yeah, he kind of came out of the gate with a lot to prove. I mean, he was a senior sign, not a big signing bonus, kind of a late round pick in the 27th round. So he had to really prove himself. The organization didn't have a lot of money invested in him initially, and he did just that. He went out and made a huge case for why he should, maybe pitch at a little bit higher level this year, which I think he will. He spent the entire summer in rookie league. At the end of the baseball season, he was touted as the #1 starting pitcher of all rookies in the organization for the Cardinals, and that's going to hold some weight.
Yeah, sure.
Perry was just here actually a couple of days ago. He threw against our current hitters, so that was a challenge for our guys, and especially for our freshmen. You know, a little bit of an eye-opening experience to see a professional guy come back.
That's very cool to see that, though, for those guys, I'm sure.
It is.
Whether they were swinging and missing or not, to have a guy come back like that that's pitching for the Cardinals now, that pitched at Seton Hill.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good connection for our younger guys to make and make them realize that, they can achieve those type of dreams too. So, yeah, very proud of Perry. Not sure where he'll start out this year, but I would anticipate it would be in some level of A-ball for the Cardinals.
He set the single-season strikeout record for Seton Hill last year in the Griffins' win against Charleston in the Atlantic Regional. And, man, I know your pitching was good. I mean, it was great in the regional and in the PSAC tournament with Perry really leading the way.
It was unbelievable. Like, as a head coach, it was almost like being able to play a video game where we just pick this guy and he goes out and he's just dominant. I mean, it was Bria, it was Monteverdi, it was Perry, and even Kolar was pretty good as a starting pitcher. So our pitching was elite. I mean, something that the pitching that we got through that postseason is like a once in a decade type of performance. So hopefully we can replicate it this year.
For sure. Maz, I just want to touch on this briefly. I know that something I'm sure has eaten at this team throughout the offseason, in the fall, and now leading up to the start of the season. That, of course, was the fact that you guys won 2 in a row in the Atlantic Regional. You had a big lead on Mercyhurst, let it get away. Came back with a huge win against Millersville to put yourself into a situation where if you beat Mercyhurst twice, you could win the regional. Had a 1-0 lead against the Lakers, and, of course, that got away, and then they ended up winning it. How much has that driven the team and, of course, kind of eaten at everybody coming into this year?
I don't think we need to remind them of what happened last year. Now, last year is last year, and that's something we're stressing with our guys, but it's very difficult to get that out of the back of their heads. You only get that close to getting to a World Series, some people once in a lifetime, and we were kind of knocking on the door. I don't believe that our guys think that they were beaten. We lost the game because we made more mistakes. We lost that tournament because we made more mistakes than the other team, and I think that's more frustrating sometimes when you just go out there and a team flat out beats you and kicks your butt. You can swallow it a little bit, but I don't know if that's extra motivation or not. I do know that it's an experience. It's an experience of failure, and if we work hard enough to get back to that position again this year, I think you'll see a different outcome.
Well, of course, a lot of new faces as well, with some returners certainly, but a lot of new guys in there too, so maybe that's a good thing. And let's talk about the 2019 version of the Griffins, and we'll kind of go from position to position, and we'll talk about the position players first, and then we'll talk about your rotation, Maz. And I guess we could talk about the catching position first. Tyler Peterson, freak injury last year, dislocates his kneecap just swinging the bat basically against Millersville early on in the season. But he's made, from talking to you off the air, he's made incredible progress coming into this year. What's his journey been like, and do you expect him to be 100% when the season starts, or do you kind of got to manage his innings as well? How's he doing?
Well, I don't know if he'll ever be 100%, and he progressed incredibly. I mean, just eight months or 9 months out of major knee surgery, he was sprinting and lifting and hitting and doing everything. Little bit of a hiccup a couple of weeks ago, just tweaked his knee, nothing structurally wrong. But we've been very cautious and hesitant to put him behind the plate. So he's able to swing right now. He's working a lot more in at first base. Just knowing the length of the season, we do want him to catch at some point, but we don't want to tax that knee right now. So he's available to use, maybe not quite in a starting catching role at the beginning.
Do you see him being a DH option, a big DH option?
Certainly, yeah, certainly. He's a guy that, he's going to contribute in whichever way we ask him to. I'm hopeful that by the end of the year, he'll be able to get back there and be a catching option for us, on at least an every other day basis. The rest of the guys back there, we do bring back Austin Brandell, a healthy Austin Brandell, which is great, and also Adam Bankovich. Mm-hmm. As you know, the catching position for us last year was a little bit of a carousel. Horrible injury to Jared Peters just kind of got us into that next man up situation. Danny Wukic filled in well, but really it was Adam Bankovich down the stretch. He played the majority of the innings for us, especially through the postseason. He did an unbelievable job. Talk about a kid who really grew up on the fly last year, redshirted his first year, so he went from not playing at all to being a guy that is trying to get a team to a World Series. So that experience for him is going to be really valuable. He provides awesome leadership. Everyone on our team looks up to him. And Austin Brandell, I'm just anxious to see him play healthy. He's swinging the bat as best as he's ever swung it. The arm's good. He's healthy. He's durable. So I think him and Bankovich will handle the bulk of the duties, especially until Peterson is able to get back there. We picked up a couple of other catchers. One, Tanner Freilich, who will probably redshirt for us, an outstanding catcher from Plum High School. Jared Matty is another freshman catcher who will handle the bulk of the duties on the JV. And then we had a transfer, Mike Connell, who came in from Clarion, who has some experience, in the PSAC. He swung the bat pretty well last year for them. So he's another option for us, especially with Peterson being down. He gives us some depth behind the plate this year. Yeah,
certainly nice to have the depth and experience as well at the catcher position. It has to make you feel a little better as a coach, and of course DJ Cannon, pitching coach as well, to have someone back there calling a game like that.
Yeah, it's been different. A couple of years ago we had Miller and Finelli for a couple consecutive years, and that was a luxury, but to lose both of those guys in the same year, we've kind of had to regroup and restart with this catching position. And now with Brandell and Bankovich in their junior year, we're pretty comfortable.
Well, let's move to the infield, Maz, where I guess you could say just one starter returns, and Chris Law, who played first base last year out of necessity and actually played pretty well there. I guess let's go to first base. What's the early plan for this season at first base?
Well, the whole infield's going to be a complete makeover, and it will have a completely different look. We have options at first base. I really don't know how they're all going to work out. One option is Parker Denny. He's a redshirt sophomore this year, but a third-year guy, tremendous leader, hard worker, physical guy that can bring some offense. So he's a candidate. We got very blessed to have Nick Stotler join our program for his grad year this year. Nick played the outfield. He's never played first base, but since he got here the first day in the fall, that's where we've primarily worked him at first base. So he's made that transition pretty well. It's been neat to see him get more comfortable every day. Nick's a guy that we're going to have in the lineup one way or another, DH, outfield, first base.
Yeah, well, why don't we jump to that right now? Tell us where that connection came from. I knew you had an idea that he made transfer last year for his grad season, but this is a kid from Plum that played he was at Lock Haven for 4 years, one of the best hitters in the PSAC, was redshirted one of those years, though. And so he transferred to Seton Hill. He's going to grad school here, and wow, what a connection.
Yeah, well, the primary thing was he was looking for a one-year MBA. He didn't want to go to grad school for 2 years because he only had 1 year to play. So fortunately, it was a great fit academically for him. We were able to put him on the Fast Forward MBA program, so he'll have his MBA in 1 year here. And he's local too. You know, he's from 20 minutes up the road. He wanted to stay a little bit closer to home. And he also knew a lot of guys on our team. So there was just a lot of things that were the right fit. He had looked at some other schools, but this was the best fit for him. And, you know, it's great to have a player of his caliber on our team, and he will certainly contribute offensively. But what I enjoyed most about him is just how good he fits with our team. Like personality-wise, work ethic-wise, like it was kind of a match made in heaven. I thought when he walked in, it was like he had been here for 3-4 years. So we're excited to have him.
Any other options at first base you haven't discussed?
Yeah, Peterson could work in there a little bit. Yeah. And then we have a vastly improved redshirt freshman, Danny Williams. Now, Danny will have a couple of guys ahead of him, but he's another guy that it's been fun to watch him grow. He'll be another first baseman for us.
Well, the middle of the infield is no longer there either. It was so great seeing Ty Sullivan and Garrett Verbanek there in the middle, whether Sully was at second and Garrett was at short, or the other way around like it was last year. But that's what happens when graduation comes around, even though Sully is still an assistant coach. We'll talk to Maz a little bit later on about that. But I know Chris Law can handle shortstop. I know you're high on Isaiah DeAndreth at second base, and Jamie Rabel got some innings last year, and Bailey Gimanis comes back. Maybe some of you forgot about him, but we didn't. He missed all of last year with an injury, but the year before he got a lot of playing time as a freshman. So how do you see the middle infield stacking up?
Well, I knew it when I was watching it happen with Garrett and Tyler. I knew that that was a special thing to watch those two play the infield together. And looking back now, you know, you certainly realize how special they were. But it is a new look. I mean, Chris Law has the flexibility to be able to play up the middle. You know, he's a guy we're looking at playing short and second, along with Isaiah DeAndreth. I think those are probably the two front runners maybe to play the middle infield. Isaiah is just, I mean, you know, being a local guy, he just gets it done. He's not going to blow you away with any crazy, you know, arm strength or speed or anything like that, but you just want stability up the middle, and he makes all the routine plays. He puts a lot of ball in play. He's a tenacious defender, an offensive guy, so we like what he can do up the middle. And Bailey is another guy that has been swinging the bat really well. I'm not sure what his best position is in the infield, but we're probably going to need him to play up the middle. We have two other guys that I think, you know, are very well suited to play short and second, Jamie Rabel and also Kalen Grimm, outstanding defenders that are probably going to fill a role somehow.
Another guy that got innings and he was a freshman.
He did.
About Kalen Grimm.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have some juniors that didn't we have some sophomores and juniors that really didn't play much, you know, as the last couple of years, but this is kind of their time. Those guys learned a lot from watching, you know, Garrett and Sully play, and we think that they're ready to help not just provide depth, but I think that was one weakness of our team is defense. So we've been trying to preach really just consistency, especially in the middle infield, and I think those guys are adapting well. Over at third base, I mean, the front runner is probably Tommy Pellis. He swings such a great bat, and we think he can be a middle-of-the-order guy. Unfortunately, he's kind of bounced around his first couple of years in college, came into Penn as an infielder, moved to the outfield, moved back to the infield this past summer and had a great year in the Great Lakes League. But, you know, he's another guy like Stotler that, you knew right away as soon as he stepped on campus that this is where he belonged. He's comfortable. Obviously, he adds a great piece of offense to our team. So we're excited to have Tommy and think he can do a great job over at third base. We have some other guys that are a very close second string behind him. Colin Lohman, Corey Storm. I'm probably forgetting some guys. And we have some freshmen as well. Yeah. Caden Wood and Brett Morris are two guys that aren't ready yet, you know, to maybe surpass some of those upperclassmen. But they're guys that we're excited about developing through a lot of JV opportunities. Yeah,
and much like Nick Stotler, Tommy Pellis, a more local guy, but a local guy as well, Greensburg Central Catholic as opposed to Plum. But I remember when he was at GCC, Maz, us having some private conversations. I know you really liked him, and then he went to Penn, and now he's here at Seton Hill. And as you mentioned, going right into the middle of the lineup, so that's a really nice get for the program.
It is. He's a great fit.
Yeah. Did we forget anybody?
No, I think I got him all.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
How about the outfield? Let's move to the outfield. I guess things may be a little bit more settled there. Craig Lewis returning. That's where we have to start from injury to play center field. Unfortunately, broke his hand last year despite getting off to a 10. He was like 10 for 14 or something like that, if you remember. Something crazy like that. I know he had some hamstring issues and a broken hand, unfortunately ended his season. So when we talk about the adversity that Seton Hill battled last year, you lose Craig Lewis, who was your best hitter, at least in terms of average, and then Tyler Peterson, I think, was, in terms of average anyway, the second best hitter, and you guys lose them early in the season. But if Craig can stay healthy, I mean, is it too much to say he could be one of the best hitters in the country?
He can be as good as he wants to be. I mean, obviously the talent's there. And the thing about Craig, he plays so hard. I mean, we saw that when he got injured last year, like going hard, 90, stolen base into third base, diving head first, breaks his hand. So, yeah, I mean, we expect him to stay healthy. We expect him to be a leader. We expect him to be an offensive igniter for us, somewhere near the top of the lineup. And the one thing about Craig gets overlooked is his defense. Now, Colton Carney is an outstanding defender, and he filled in really well for Craig last year. But if Craig's on the field, I think it makes our entire defense and everybody else around him better. So, yeah, I mean, he's ready to go. I know he's chomping at the bit and just anxious to get out there and compete on a daily basis for us. But yeah, the outfield is totally different than the infield. I mean, we have so much experience and depth out there, where it's a little different in the infield.
Well, let's talk about some of that depth. You mentioned Colton Carney already, coming back for his redshirt senior season. Ryan Grieco, now a senior, has had success flashing that speed. Jordan Fedor got a lot of innings last year, so showed some really good flash as a freshman. Andrew Chuba, I'm sure, ready to have a breakout season after coming off of a healthy, at least I think, healthy off season. All those guys in the mix for outfield spots right now, and talk about some of the others as well.
Yeah, they are. I think it's going to be a really, I guess, competitive part of the team. But if all of those guys work together and kind of just each and every day, whoever's number is called, they go out and do the job and kind of pass the baton to the next guy, I think it's going to be an incredibly productive and successful group. Ryan Grieco is I think a guy that just like the potential is there, and he had a great year and maybe not so great last year. So I think him and Chuba in particular are guys that we really want to see just go out and have fun. I mean, senior year, a lot of guys can make too much of that and put pressure on themselves. I know we're going to be a really, really good team when those two guys go out and have fun, and that's what we're hoping they do. Carney is kind of just a solid like rock for us, and he has been at least the last couple of years. He provides great leadership and great stability, and I thought last year was by far the best year he had for us, and he stepped up big in the postseason.
I'm thinking back to the postseason, had a home run in the regional, and he also didn't he make a diving catch as well in left field, I believe, to rob a RBI game. Single would have been? Yeah, against Millersville, I believe.
Yeah, he kept that shutout intact, had an 8 RBI game.
Oh, I forgot about that one,
tournament.
That's right.
So
against Shippensburg, I believe.
Yeah, and I think the key for Colton last year was he just kind of said, I'm going to go out and have fun. And he did, and he played well, and we need the same from some of the other older guys this year, is just focus on having fun. Jordan Fedor is a guy that got in the mix last year as a freshman, and when his number was called, he performed well. And I think I see him having the same type of role. He's going to see some action, because you're not going to play the same 3 outfielders every game. So Jordan kind of embraces his role, and I think he'll be very successful this year. We've added another piece to the puzzle, more of an offensive bat that we're excited about, Tyler Zaleski from Sinclair Community College. He's a guy that he was our best hitter this fall, which was a surprise because we had never really seen him on a daily basis, and he came in and made a really strong statement to be some type of contributor offensively for us. So that's a nice piece to add too. Brandon Klein's a really athletic freshman that challenging for him because he has so many upperclassmen ahead of him, but has some great tools, and I don't know how much of a role he'll play this year, but he has a promising future for us. And then rounding out, we have 2 redshirt freshmen, Frank Montecalvo and Luke Whalen. We're pretty hopeful that those guys are going to get a lot of at-bats on the JV this year and hopefully develop so that they can be pieces to add when those seniors graduate after this year.
Now, when you mention JV, is there going to be an expanded schedule for JV this year in terms, even in Florida, are you going to have some JV?
Yeah, there is. We're going to play 2 JV games in Florida this year, and I think once we come back, we might have another 8 on the schedule. So a lot more than we've ever played before.
Yeah, big roster, so I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah,
to have those extra games.
Right now, knock on wood, we have the depth to play those games. So
I'll knock on wood for you here. Wooden chair. Turning our attention to the pitching staff. Obviously a big loss. Anytime you lose someone like Perry, obviously it's a big loss, but you bring back Pat Monteverdi, Mike Bria. We talked about their fantastic performances in the playoffs, 2-0 last season. Kenny Wells, I know, moves from more of a closer's role to a starting role this year. You have Neil McDermott, Jared Kolar, Cole Masick into the mix as well this year. Kind of talk about those guys, Maz, and how you see the staff coming together early on. And I know some of these things will be decided as the season starts as well.
Well, one of the things I'm most proud of our pitching staff, when you go down the list and you look at all the returning pitchers, some of the ones that were big pitchers for us and some of the ones that didn't pitch so much last year, they all got a lot better. And I think it's going to surprise some of the teams that we play this year, especially in our conference, that might know our pitchers from last year. All those guys got a lot better, stronger, added third, fourth pitches to the mix. Velocity's gone up. I mean, I could go right down the line, and I can honestly say that every one of those guys that came back on our pitching staff are a lot better than they were last year, and that just makes our team a lot better, especially when you lose 14 seniors. So Kenny will probably make that transition from the bullpen to the starting rotation. It's going to be fun to watch that. I mean, you see just glimpses of being a dominant pitcher when he's throwing 1 or 2 innings a weekend. So having the opportunity to see him go out and dominate for 7 or 9 innings this year will be exciting. Pat Monteverdi is one of those guys that's gotten a lot better. He had a great summer. We didn't pitch. He just trained and put on 15 pounds. Velocity's gone up. He is absolutely fun to watch. He reminds me, honestly, of some guys that pitch in the big leagues. You know, that left-handed pitcher that commands the zone and just competes. He's really good now. So he'll be up there. To be honest with you, we don't really know after those 2 guys. We have a lot of candidates that could start. Neil McDermott, another guy that's just taken a huge leap in the last 12 to 18 months. He's gotten bigger and stronger and a lot more polished. I think his summer away, pitching in a really good league, helped him mature into more of a strike thrower. I don't know if Neil will be in the rotation. He's certainly good enough, but he's also an awesome weapon to have out of the bullpen too. So Jared Kolar has starting experience. We know he's a strike thrower. He's a big game pitcher, both in high school and in the postseason for us. And then you got Mike Bria, who by the vote of our team was our most valuable pitcher last year. Wow. To think about that, maybe Wells and McDermott and Monteverdi get all the preseason or postseason accolades, and then you got Mike Bria, a guy who just goes out and wins. So when he's healthy, he's going to be a guy for us, no doubt about it. Cole Masick is a great pickup, a power pitcher, a low to mid-90s guy. So the stuff is there. We just kind of figure out where he fits in, what role suits him best. That might be as a starter, might be as a reliever. George Coyle is a guy that just tossed a few innings for us last year, and we expect him to play a much bigger role this year. A guy that's similar to Neil and Monteverdi. He's taking his weight training serious, taking his throwing serious. His velocity's gone up. He's developed his secondary pitches, and I mean, he's a guy that's going to surprise some people this year, I think. So he'll play a big role. We have 2 freshmen that we think are ready. They're ready to pitch at this level. Marshall McGraw and Christian Seelhorst. They're both guys that had big game experience in high school, so I think they're ready to make that jump. Nick Boehm is a guy that's battled some injuries his last few years. He's probably pitching the best that he's ever had as a Seton Hill player. And I think it's his time to really make that jump as well and be, maybe a top bullpen guy for us. Going a little bit deeper into the bullpen, Brian Dabney is a guy that, as a freshman, played a significant role for us, that different look left-handed pitcher.
Every good team needs a Brian Dabney type in the bullpen.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he filled that role really well last year. 2 years ago. Last year, our pitching staff just had a little bit different mix, and he didn't have as many opportunities, but we don't have many left-handers other than Pat, and we unfortunately lost Josh Keefe. So Dabney's going to have to play a pretty significant role for us as really our main left-handed bullpen guy. So there's a lot of depth there in that pitching staff. Certainly a lot of quality as well. I think those guys that I had mentioned are probably the guys that we're going to use the most in the PSAC games. Some other guys, Ben Vicini came back as a sophomore. Again, bigger, stronger, much more polished. He's matured a lot. He'll be a bullpen guy for us. And then Spencer Kern, Brandon Flieger are two freshmen that probably going to eat up a ton of JV innings for us this year too.
Maz, I ask you this every year on the season preview show, and maybe you kind of already touched on this, but maybe one or two guys that you can kind of pinpoint that really stood out in the fall and now in preseason practices that, you know, maybe you didn't even expect them to take that next step. Who would one of those guys or two of those guys be on your team?
That's a good question, because I think those guys are the key to your season.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows what your starting rotation, what's expected of those guys, but it's those guys that kind of the Mike Brias, you know, of last year. But it's hard to ignore what Tyler Zaleski did in the fall, and I know the fall doesn't mean anything for the spring, but he showed us a glimpse of what he's capable of doing, being a really good power bat. It's also hard to deny the impact that Isaiah DeAndreth could make, both offensively and defensively. Just his consistency, I think, is going to be a big factor for us. And on the pitching side of it, there's always those 4, 5, 6 guys, those guys that you're going to rely upon to come in and close games, but maybe even start games when you get deeper into the postseason. You know, I think a guy like George Coyle, kind of somewhere in the middle there, can be a really impactful guy for us, especially in Florida when you need some back-to-back appearances from guys. But those might be maybe 3 guys in particular, offensively, defensively, and pitching-wise, that we think could be swing guys and make an impact.
How about your assistant coaches? I know it all starts with your right-hand men and DJ Cannon and Mike Houck, but you also add Ty Sullivan to the staff this year, and man, what a great fit I'm sure that Sully has been for your staff. Yeah,
going back a couple of years ago when Foe made that transition from player to GA, the timing was great because that was the year that we were bringing in 2 or 3 new catchers. And this year was similar. Like, we're bringing Tyler on as the infield and hitting coach, and we're replacing our whole infield. So he's been really impactful in helping our younger guys. And the thing about Tyler is he doesn't make guys say, he doesn't have the approach as a coach, well, I did it this way and this is the way I think you should do it. He understands the strengths and weaknesses of each guy, but the energy that he brings is what guys really gravitate to, and I think he's getting a lot out of our players in terms of development and improvement, just because of the energy he brings. He knows, or they know, that he is very invested in their future. DJ's back as his 7th, I believe, season as our pitching coach. What Perry Delaval did here is awesome. Like, he achieved a lot of success. There's a man behind that played a little bit of a part in that, and that's DJ, and not just Perry's development, but all of our guys. You look back at a guy like Bryce Spack and Don McReith last year to see how they finished their careers compared to when they started. A lot of that is the teachings of DJ and the leadership that he's provided for all the pitchers. And I talked a lot about how much our pitching staff has improved as individuals in the last 12 months. There's a reason for that. There's a great program in place and a great blueprint and great teaching behind that, and DJ's responsible for that. And Coach Houck, his versatility has been great. He has great experience with our hitters, but he's also able to work with our catchers. He adds a little bit of value in a lot of different places for us, so that's been pretty awesome. And just the fact that he's made so many sacrifices to be with our program is very special too. So, I think our coaching staff is, we not only work very well together, but I think we're just all in on making our guys the best players that they can be.
A few more questions for you, Maz. I know how much you preach the mental side of the game, and I'm just curious if you could kind of let us in a little bit on what you guys do to prepare for a season. You know, going back to the fall, through the winter, you know, when the guys come back from Christmas break, and now you're really ramping it up. Not necessarily drills and everything, but just some of the little things that you do. And I know one of the big things that you do as well is you bring in alumni, guys that have played here to kind of talk to the players as well. I know that's a small component of it, but what are some of the things you do to get ready for the season?
Well, I think some people might refer to it as like mental toughness development, but for us, it's more of whole person development, to try to expose our guys to as many different perspectives as possible to help them grow and get better. A lot of what we're trying to expose our guys to is failure. Like, we want them to fail a lot so that they can learn.
Right.
But one of the things we did in the fall, we never really went, full scale with this until this past fall, but we had a speaker series. And we wanted to bring in different people to speak to our team that would provide different perspectives for them about their experiences. And one of them was Ken Maka, which maybe I appreciated it a little bit more than our guys because they couldn't relate to the old school,
right.
70s and 80s in Major League Baseball. But to hear some of his stories, our guys know who Nolan Ryan is, and they heard some stories about him.
Start perking up a little bit.
Yeah. So to hear Coach Maka's stories in perspective adds a little bit of appreciation for the game, I think, for our guys. They had some questions for him about, like, what do you think about the shifts and launch angle and all that stuff?
That's cool, and,
Ken was a lot more old school in his perspective, so it adds a different understanding for our guys. We also brought in Brandon Rumbaugh. Most people know the story about Brandon, but the idea behind that was just to have him connect with our guys and for our guys to have a little bit bigger and better appreciation for what they have, the opportunity to be here in college playing baseball. And also motivation, to hear the story that Brandon has and what he's overcome in his life and his connection to our program, I think really makes guys a little bit more hungry and motivated to be successful. We brought in somebody else, and I can't remember who it was. It was one of our
alumni. Was not me, but I'm willing.
Pat Treadle. I'm sorry.
Okay,
we brought in Pat Treadle too. So we brought in two people outside of the program, and then one of our alumni to really share some firsthand experiences. Yeah. And Pat is a guy that I think could relate to our players really well because he came here, didn't have a whole lot of success his first couple of years, had surgery, had some things to overcome, got in great shape, and then the rest is history. He was an All-American, and now he's in the Seton Hill Hall of Fame. Yeah. So guys open our record books and they see these names of these guys and all the things that they've achieved during their time here. To be able to put a face and a voice to that reputation, I think was pretty neat for our guys. So we do that in the fall. Right now we're about halfway through our off-season, again, mental training, I guess you would say. But each one of our guys read a book over Christmas break, and we've done that every year for about 7 years. We kind of have a book review, and right now it's a very basic one, the mental game of baseball, which I think is really valuable for our freshmen, but we're breaking that down, having team meetings once a week. Last year we did a non-baseball related book about mental toughness. So we're just trying to expose our guys to as many different perspectives, life perspectives as possible, and get them to just hopefully realize that whatever it is they want to achieve, they got to be able to overcome adversity along the way.
Well, Maz, let's talk about your schedule. Seton Hill opens the season, if you're watching this as soon as the interview comes out, next weekend against Winston-Salem State. But you certainly aren't shying away from some great competition. You got Winston-Salem State, always a very good program, and then to Florida where you play the defending national champions, Augustana, I believe, or Augustana. Am I saying it right? Augustana.
That's my understanding.
Augustana from San Diego won the national championship last year.
South Dakota.
I'm sorry, South Dakota. Why did I say San Diego?
I don't know.
I have no idea either. That's probably it. Yeah. Hello. And then you guys play Tampa after a 1-year hiatus. Obviously one of the best, if not the best year in and year out program in all of Division II. Grand Valley State's always a great program. So you play those teams among others in Florida, Maz. And then you guys play, not long after the Florida trip, Point Park, at least weather permitting, hopefully. And then you play Lemoyne and Millersville in a weekend where kind of everybody plays one another. So you're definitely going to be tested early, aren't you?
We are. Terrible scheduling on my part. Just really terrible. Yeah.
Fire the schedule.
I'm an idiot. But it's kind of luck of the draw when you go to Florida. We knew that we were going to play Malone and Tampa, and then the rest of that schedule in Florida is just kind of whoever they give us. And it's not easy, that's for sure. I think this is the third time in the last 5 years that we're playing the defending national champion, which is awesome. We want to do that. Obviously playing Tampa.
Augustana from South Dakota, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Just getting that in there.
And the rest of that schedule is pretty tough too. I mean, Malone is like a 35-win team. Ashland was in a regional last year. Grand Valley, who's always outstanding, we got them for 2 games. So it's going to be a challenge. And then once you come back, you've got, I think Lemoyne was in a regional last year with a first-round draft pick, and Millersville is absolutely loaded again this year. So I know that we will be prepared once PSAC West play starts. I don't know what our record's going to be, but I don't think we're going to face anything tougher than what we're going to see in the first couple of weeks of the season. And Winston-Salem is off to a 3-0 start. We play them here in a week or so. I would anticipate them being about 9-1, 10-0 by the time we play them. They're extremely athletic and talented. So on paper, and it's before the season starts, but I got to guess that we have to have one of the most difficult schedules in the whole country. When the season's over, we'll see how the numbers play out, but I know we're not going to fall short as far as strength of schedule this year.
And how did Millersville and Lemoyne come together? I know you went to Millersville last year, but now not only is Millersville coming to Seton Hill, but Lemoyne is as well.
Well, John Sheehan and I agreed to just do a home and home where we go there, and then Lemoyne was looking for games that weekend, and we both recognized that they're a strong program. So it benefits the both of us to play them and work them into the weekend.
How do you see the PSAC stacking up this year?
Well, I think each year the conference has a different makeup. To be honest with you, last year overall, from top to bottom, I thought the conference might have been down a little bit, whereas in 17, I thought it was at a very high level. I think that obviously Westchester won a national championship. And I think at 16, Millersville might have been lost in the national championship game. I think last year you saw a lot of the high-level players in the conference kind of graduate. And this year, and then this is just my opinion, but I think this is going to be one of the strongest years for the PSAC that I've ever been a part of since 2014. The number of high-level potential draft pick players in the conference this year is unbelievable, as are some of the teams. I think Slippery Rock took a little bit of a hit. They had some big-time guys graduate, but when you look at the PSAC West, the rest of the West is, I think, a lot better. Now, we graduated 14 guys too, but Mercyhurst has a lot of guys back, and they've added some transfer pieces. Gannon, I think, is a team that might have kind of fell a little bit short last year, but most of their best players are back. IUP, I think, graduated a lot of guys, but I think they're going to be better. California, I think, is kind of the sleeper in the West, to be honest with you. They didn't lose a whole lot. They've added some good recruits, and they're a year older. Clarion's a program that continues to kind of climb a little bit. And Pitt Johnstown, I think, is a team that really didn't lose a lot from last year. So they have a lot of pieces back. I think the PSAC West in general is going to be a little bit stronger. I'm not as familiar with the East, but I know Shippensburg took a little bit of a hit with some draft picks last year, but I think most of the other teams in that conference, Millersville, I think, lost one offensive player. I mean, they're loaded too. They bring everybody back. So I think the conference is going to be, again, one of the top probably 2 or 3 in the country.
And then, of course, next year Shepherd enters the conference,
yeah,
which will make it even. Now, they're going to be in the East, but still you'll see them in the tournament and in the regional like you usually do anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
That'll definitely be interesting. I want to ask you this, too, Maz. The PSAC nearly moved the tournament to West Lawn. They were actually, I believe, in the process of doing that, and Johnstown said, wait a second, we have a contract. We don't need to get into all that. But I think I asked you this on an interview last year, but what do you favor? Would you like to see the tournament in West Lawn? Or would you like to see it in Johnstown where you've won a few conference, make it 3 conference championships there, including one in the WIVIAC?
Yeah, my head says move it to West Lawn, and my heart says keep it in Johnstown, just because, I don't know, our guys play really good there, and it's kind of been a home away from home for us, and we've had success. But we've also played a lot of regionals at West Lawn. It's a great facility. The tournament belongs in West Lawn, in my opinion. It's just it's a more championship atmosphere type of place to hold the PSAC tournament. So this is, I believe, the last year in Johnstown. I don't know if it's guaranteed to move to West Lawn in the future, but I would anticipate it.
Finally, let's wrap up with this. You know, the Seton Hill baseball program is so special, as I talk a lot about, not only on the air but to various people. You finally did have a chance to really reflect on last year, at least I think so, at some point, maybe over Christmas break or something, and over the summer. What was the feeling like, you know, reflecting back on even maybe the last 2 championship seasons and hearing from so many alumni and the parents and, you know, even maybe new recruits that are now freshmen here at Seton Hill, you know, hearing how interested they are in playing for a championship program. What has the really experience been like?
Well, just for me personally, after last year, I had a really mixed bag of pride and frustration. I was really proud of how our guys got better throughout the year. We were certainly a much better team at the end of the season than we were at the beginning. And I think as a coach, that's really all you can ask for, is that your guys continue to get better each and every day. We made some mistakes early, we learned from them, and played our best baseball at the end. But there was also some frustration, just because I don't know if our guys fully trusted themselves at the end there, and I think we just beat ourselves. That's who we lost to, is we lost to ourselves. And that weighs on you for quite a while, but you got to turn the page. And so there was a little bit of a mix last year. Accomplishing what we did to win 2 conference tournaments in a row and be the PSAC champions is really remarkable, especially when you come in as a 4 seed. But you know, that's a testament to our guys. I mean, they don't let anything that happens up until that point affect them one way or another. I mean, if you wouldn't have known that we were the 4 seed, you wouldn't have known that we were playing without some of our best players or any of the things. They just embrace the opportunity. I'm really proud of how they competed. You know, I guess, you know, it's fun to get the rings and to celebrate championships and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I think our goals for our program continue to be the same, and that's to help our players try to become the best version of themselves. Like, we are going to push them. They're going to work their tails off. They're going to be very invested and dedicated, with the ultimate goal of just reaching their full potential. I think if we just continue to focus on that, the winning and the championships and all that stuff will take care of itself. And I think that's what you saw. You saw a lot of guys that were they were all in on trying to become the best versions of themselves. 3 out of the last 4 years, we've had the highest GPA of any baseball team in the PSAC. Wow. And that's 16 schools. So that, to me, is becoming the best version of yourself, both on and off the field. And that's no different than what we talk to recruits about. I mean, obviously we don't say if you come here we're going to win a championship. But we do tell them if you come here you're going to work really hard and have the opportunity to realize what you're capable of doing to reach your full potential. So hopefully we can keep doing that. I mean, I feel obligated, and I speak for DJ and Tyler too, to just give our guys a great experience. We want to expose them to every resource possible to become bigger, stronger, faster, good baseball players, great students. We're just trying to provide the best experience possible, and fortunately we have an awesome facility to do that.
Yep, have some fun along the way.
Yep.
And again, the great atmosphere with the baseball program. There's so much support, and I know how much you guys appreciate that, enjoy it.
We do. Our alumni, as supportive as they are, now they're getting a little bit demanding. Like, we lose one game and I get texts like, hey, what the heck's going on? You know? But that's good. You want that.
Absolutely.
It keeps me accountable.
That's pretty funny. And then, of course, over Griffmas break as well, I'm sure you get to hear from a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
See a lot of those guys, so that's pretty cool. Well, Maz, this was always a pleasure. I love doing it year after year. The season preview show, I already heard from a few people like Kenny Wells' dad asked me, or asked Kenny, like, hey, when's the season preview show coming up? So here we are, we're doing it. We're just, if you're watching it when we release this, we're a week away from the start of the season. The Griffins will open the season once again against Winston-Salem State and then head to Florida. You can listen to all the games in Florida on the Westmoreland Sports Network. And then once again, the games that are played at home We will try to do the majority of them on video. However, the weather always wreaks havoc on that. And then when we get into the playoffs, we'll see. I mean, we were able to do the regional games on video. I know people loved it. Even the game was at Charleston, the one that when Perry shut down Charleston and had the strikeout record, and our camera out there, which was stationary, was going like this. Looked like you were on a cruise ship because of how windy it was that night. But at least we had something there. But we'll try to do our best to have as many games on video as we possibly can. But again, the weather does kind of wreak havoc on that. But
the video in the regional is very helpful for some umpire feedback as well.
Yes. There was probably some tapes mailed or emailed. But yes, that I was glad to help you out in that endeavor as well, Maz. No problem. I'm always here for you, buddy. So we'll try to do video as much as possible with the weather. We're not sure. And then, of course, the games that are not on video, they will be on audio as well. So
I have one more thing that I would like to do during this.
Yeah.
And this is to present Dan Flickinger with his conference championship ring.
Wow, that's awesome.
2018.
Thanks, buddy.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. This is.
We appreciate everything that you do.
This is awesome. I'm glad you didn't get down on a knee there, by the way. But thank you so much. I tell everybody, try to promote the program. Whether we're on the air, whether we're broadcasting the games, talking to high school kids, I try to recruit for Maz. Going around and just talking to everybody about how special this baseball program is. It really is second to none, and I'm so happy to be a part of the Griffins family. And this is awesome. Maybe in a few years I can sell it for a few $1 million, but I might turn that away. But this
or we
is
could
really
just get
cool.
you a bigger one.
Oh yeah, that's right.
After we go to carry.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, this one will be a little smaller then. At that point, so that'd be cool. Maz, thank you so much once again, and good luck.
Thank you.
We'll be talking with you soon for pregame interviews. Don't forget you can also tune in early to Griffins Game Day, or I should say Griffins on Deck, prior to all Seton Hill University baseball games. That is Coach Mark Marizaldi. I want to thank David Oliverio as well as Brittany Petrangelo for their work behind the scenes here for the 2019 Seton Hill Baseball Season Preview Show. Don't forget you can follow Seton Hill University Baseball on Twitter. I'll tell you what, your Instagram game has really picked up, buddy. Check out the Seton Hill Baseball Instagram story. There's something, I think, every day.
Yeah, we've been trying to keep the stories pretty consistent with practice. And
yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's the place to go right now.
Yeah, it is Instagram. Instagram is hot right now, so check that out. For Coach Mark Marizaldi, I'm Dan Flickinger. We'll be talking to you on a diamond pretty soon. You've been watching the 2019 Seton Hill University Baseball Season Preview Show on the Westmoreland Sports Network.